of the General Assembly, strengthening the accountability, transparency, and institutional memory of the OPGA, we can look to the Charter, its foundational design, the trajectory since the first sessions of the General Assembly to where we stand today in a body of 193 states and observers, with a vast number of debates, resolutions, mandates, gatherings, and participations, recorded moments and stories through time, a collective memory. Delegations from different corners of the world have shared their accounts on various issues of importance, their concerns, constraints, obstacles, visions, and declarations for peace. We can reflect on the milestones achieved over the past decades, as well as where the membership and representatives of the organization failed to uphold the principles and purposes outlined in the Charter and core mandates of the General Assembly, and the impacts on people and families, communities, and states. We can recover or do course where we have swayed and bring rectification, resolution, and consciousness to present actions. Accountability begins in the membership and in the election of the President of the General Assembly amongst the membership, ensuring there is a fair and inclusive process. In the past years, regretfully, the equitable rotation an inclusive process followed in 72 years was undermined, and in turn, the Assembly was left with a break in its integrity, equal standing, sovereign equality, chipping away at the credibility and legitimacy of this body. Even if the significance of this critical event may have been unnoticed or dismissed by some, it has left a tearing in the base of the whole architecture and cohesive framework, with profound impacts for large and small states. We may continue with successive activities, perhaps without all the awareness and understanding, care required for the restitution of the General Assembly and United Nations' delicate and intertwined balances of multilateralism, and it may never be the same. An unspoken mourning, devastation was present in the Assembly on this day, where justice has been called upon and is unfolding as we speak and with every passing day. The sovereign equality of each member state, a precept enshrined in the United Nations Charter, covenants, and declarations as a quality to establish order and justice in the international relations, also implies that none should presume to have greater stature or influence to merit privileges other than those held by each nation state on equal basis. The demand for respecting symmetry regarding the distinction between the strong and the weak, the large and the small, none can be deemed to have less importance, despite presumptions, inequities some seek to impose. No nation should presume to have more rights, such as to hold the same position more than once, while other states that have not served an equal opportunity are relegated to an indefinite waiting list. The norm applies so that all regions have the possibility of holding the office, and all nations making up a region have the same guarantee of not being excluded. If in diplomacy, the cohesive threads of what has been agreed unravel, either bilaterally or multilaterally, what hope remains for the considerable number of less favored countries of the world, of not being trampled on their rights or condemned to be just another number in the concert of nations that make up this assembly? The submissive resignation of being discarded, having to disguise this abusive criterion of disparity? No, not if stateliness brings forth honorable behavior. Only respect for equity as well as compliance with what has been agreed upon augurs peace, harmony, and understanding amongst nations. We all have the desire to contribute and make a difference, and there are times we have experiences where we have been stopped, repressed, thwarted, and our ideals shattered and crushed. And even with all of this, we can still stand for generosity, dignity, freedom, and peace. Revitalization can be deemed as the act of bringing something back to life or restoring its health, as well as to give new life and vigor to. Such may be its significance, and it might extend beyond this. We may look at this inquiry how to revitalize with accountability and transparency in this office. There may be no easy manner to start anew, even if there is a relay of session upon session, each cycle carrying on to a calendar of sequential scheduled meetings and events where elections are key, and we are choosing to partake in the work of this organization, and where all offices ought to comply with the standards of impartiality and fairness in the performance of duties. And failing to do so has costs to people and to nations, even though there are few procedures, accountability systems, and sanctions for those who blatantly have had conducts of disregard and failed to comply to norms, obligations, and responsibilities. Notwithstanding, we can make an assessment today and ongoingly while we strive and act to uphold just standards, humanity, and decency, where there may be a shift to empower ourselves and others. Follow best practices with commitments, mechanisms, and tools to review processes and results, as well as generate solutions. Where there are reclamations that the election was not conducted correctly, and support means to appeal and resolve disputes. As of yet, the OPGA has not been effective in dealing and generating solutions on these matters, and at times has not followed upon the code of ethical conduct of the presidency of the General Assembly. The office and the Secretariat have the responsibility to provide adequate means of transparent processes and elections, and save all the communications, reclamations, claims, protestations, as well as this office being held accountable by the membership, the stakeholders, and all the people who have financed and contribute, including taxpayers. Free and fair elections with equitable and inclusive, fully participatory processes are at the heart of peaceful coexistence and trust among peers and the population, and are an example for upcoming generations, where in the General Assembly we must respect the sovereign equality of each member and follow even-handed, unbiased practices, and with participation of men and women. In a United Nations and Assembly with accountability, transparency, which honors objective and integrous practices with good faith, and the golden rule at heart, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Imagine what could be possible. And make a difference for the people with participation of people and their rights all over the world. Thank you very much.
I thank Ambassador Flores for his statement. And I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Dominican Republic, to be followed by our last speaker, Sierra Leone. Dominican Republic.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate the co-chairs for being elected and wish them success in exercising their functions, and you repeat the commitment and support of my country to conduct the process of revitalization of the General Assembly for the purpose of making sure that this important body, which must reflect our collective commitment as an international community, that it should be more efficient, more transparent, but most importantly, most representative. Distinguished co-facilitators, distinguished colleagues, the Dominican Republic is very happy and proud to join Mexico and a large number of member states in the joint declaration in which we are requesting gender parity and the strengthening of the representation of women in the work of the General Assembly. This is a very important component in our efforts to implement the mandate of revitalizing the work of this august body. As highlighted in the joint declaration, this year, 2025, is a milestone, not only in the history of the United Nations, but especially in the history of promoting gender equality, the equality of rights, and equality of opportunities for women. As we celebrate, amongst other things, the 30th anniversary of the Declaration and Platform of Beijing. The General Assembly of the United Nations has played a crucial role in promoting this agenda, and in particular by creating UN Women in 2010 as the UN body responsible for gender equality and the empowerment of women. For 15 years, UN Women has without a doubt made a huge difference in promoting equality of rights and opportunities for women around the world. Co-facilitators, distinguished colleagues, the time has come for the General Assembly of the United Nations to also take up and promote this agenda with even more force. Ultimately, our top priority should be to ensure gender equality in the work of the General Assembly itself. The role of the President of the General Assembly is of particular importance. Having a woman as President of this organ not only will send a strong message of commitment and inspire the whole world, it will also improve the quality of work of the General Assembly itself. It's time for the General Assembly to be more representative and therefore more in sync with the demographic trends and realities. Women contribute alternative perspectives and different ideas to any debate. Achieving gender parity and the number of men and women as presidents of the General Assembly will no doubt improve the legitimacy and enhance the quality of the work of this extremely important organ for global governance. Distinguished co-facilitators, colleagues, the time to act is now. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Dominican Republic for her statement, and I now give the floor to Sierra Leone.
Distinguished co-chairs, Sierra Leone aligns itself with the statement delivered by Algeria on behalf of the non-aligned movement, and I would like to further make the following remarks in my national capacity. I thank Your Excellencies, Ms. Matu Joini, Permanent Representative of the Republic of South Africa, and Mr. Cornel Feruta, Permanent Representative of Romania, for your leadership as co-chairs of the ad hoc working group on the revitalization of the work of the General Assembly and for convening today's meeting. I also wish to convey my appreciation to His Excellency Philemon Yang, President of the General Assembly, and Mr. Moses Abelian, Under Secretary General for Assembly and Conference Management, for their insightful remarks.